We are live.
Welcome.
Yeah. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. Let's get this one going. Oh, exciting. Facebook is live. Cool. How do you click that for our write our comments? Okay. Say hi when you're on so we know you are listening. Hello. So far we have no one. Oh, hello, Patricia. We have one lady on YouTube. Oh, Darren is on. We're just kind of waiting as people are hopping on. But if you're going to catch us replay, I just want to mention that this is Teri Morrison. She is our community health nurse, and she's going to be answering all your questions that you have through chat today. So think of some good ones. Hi, Robin, Darren, Patricia. Welcome. We are trying something new. Trying to do both formats at the same time, so bear with us.
You want me to start talking?
So, yeah, hi.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Teri Morrison. I'm community health nurse for Bois Forte. I am here to answer all your questions on COVID. So I just wanted to give you a little background. So I've worked at Bois Forte for 18 years, and I have worked in emergency preparedness for 17 years. We do have a plan for COVID. We are working through it. We have a plan for quarantine and isolation. So I can answer any questions on those. I do want to talk a little bit. I know I've done a talk on isolation and quarantine, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it until we get some questions. So, say if one of your family members was diagnosed with COVID, or so let's start back. If they have symptoms, what would they do? So if you or someone you know has symptoms, which would be fever, a new cough, shortness of breath, loss of taste, loss of smell, headache, and then some stomach issues, which could include nausea or diarrhea or vomiting, you would call the clinic. If you doctor at Bois Forte, you would call the Bois Forte clinic. They would send you in back to talk to a nurse, and you would get screened by the nurse, and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions about travel, where you've been, what kind of symptoms you have, that kind of stuff. So if you meet the criteria for testing, they will ask you to come in, but they will ask you to do what we call an outside visit. So you would pull up, and you would call the clinic when you pull up, and you tell them that you're there. So then a provider will come out to your car, because we don't want you to come in just in case you actually really do have it, because we don't want you to spread it to a bunch of people. So we will go out to the car, the provider will, and they will ask you a few more questions. They may test you for strep throat, because boy, we're seeing a lot of that. They may also possibly test you for the flu. There's been a few cases this late in the year. And then they may test you for COVID. If those other two are negative, they may test you for COVID. So we have a machine in the clinic that will give you a result in about 15 to 45 minutes. So you'll know then if that initial test is positive or negative. If it's positive, they're going to send you home to stay home. They're going to call me, and they're going to say, and the provider's going to call me and say, hey, we have a positive COVID test. And they're going to give me your phone number, and then I'm going to call you and do what we call a case investigation. So I'm going to ask you what kind of symptoms you've had when you first started having the symptoms. Then we're going to ask you who all you've been in contact with and where all you've been. that part of the case investigation is just kind of lets me know who would be a high risk contact or a direct contact. Do you have a question?
We have a question.
Ooh, go ahead.
We have our first question. It's from Darren. He says, what is the percentage of accuracy of the tests that the Boys for clinics do?
I knew you would. So I'm not the medical provider, but I want to say it's like 97% accurate. So that initial test, we call it more of a screening test. So that initial one, if it's positive, your test is positive. If that initial test comes up negative, we're going to do what's called a send out, and it's going to go down to the Mayo Clinic, and they're going to do a more intensive lab test on it. The machine we have is more of a screening test. So sometimes people that have, and I haven't actually seen one come back positive. So sometimes our initial screening test will come up negative, and if you still have symptoms, we're going to send that down to the Mayo Clinic. And that's the better, more accurate test. But I haven't seen one come back positive yet that we had that's been negative in the office.
We do have one more.
Oh, go ahead.
We do have another one from our Facebook Live. It says they're just wondering if there has been any other cases on the reservation.
No, we've had one case in Vermilion almost 2 weeks ago. So otherwise, we haven't had anything since. Anything?
I guess.
Okay. We had another one from YouTube that asked the same question.
Okay.
That we don't have any new cases on.
There are no current cases, active cases on Boys Fort. So I'll keep talking through. So if I call you, because if you were positive, or if I call you and I'm doing the case investigation, we're going to talk about everyone that you've had contact with 2 days before you started getting sick. So if you had symptoms Friday morning, I'm going to ask you back to that Wednesday before, 2 days before you started having symptoms. So I'm going to ask, where you work, if you were at work, who you had contact with at work, what family members live at home, if you have direct contact with them. Direct contact is closer than 6 feet, longer than 15 minutes.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Is it possible for a person that might need to be tested twice?
Yes, it could be. So if you come in and you just started having symptoms that day and you're not really, and you don't test positive then, you could come back. So your symptoms keep getting worse. You're short of breath. You have a real high temp. You could come back in a couple days and test positive.
All right, we're good.
So, okay.
Quarantine.
So if I'm doing the case investigation on you, then I am going to, like I said, ask you where you work, ask you if you've been out to eat anywhere, ask if you've been out to the bar, because that seems to be a big one in southern Minnesota right now in the 20 to 29 age group. There's a lot of people out at the bar, and it's really hard to social distance when you're drinking. So that group, we've seen a big increase in cases there. So we're going to ask a whole bunch of questions. So then I'm going to tell you that you need to stay home for 10 days, at least 10 days from the date that you first got sick. So if you got sick, first starting in symptoms on a Friday, you're going to do 10 days from that day. So on that 10th day, you need to have been fever-free for 3 days. So if you don't have a fever at all, if you never had a fever at all the whole time, and say you just lost your sense of taste and maybe you had a headache, you would just have to stay home that 10 days. But if you had a fever, you'd have to do the 10 days, and you need to be fever-free for 3 days without taking Tylenol or ibuprofen, and you need to have your symptoms improving. So if you still have the same hacking cough, or you still have the same headache, then you'd have to stay till that started improving. So that's what you would have to do. So then you told me the people that you've had contact with, the closer than 6 feet, even if you have one of these masks on, this mask isn't an excuse to be closer than 6 feet. I would still quarantine people that are closer than 6 feet for longer than 15 minutes. So I would then get that list of people that you've had contact with and also your employer. I would ask you if I can contact, well, I'm going to contact your employer either way, but I'm going to ask if it's okay if I use your name. That using your name helps a lot because then we can identify who you had contact with. So if you tell me yes, then I can call the HR department where you work and say, hey, John Smith has COVID. So then I would go back to the first day that you were sick, and we'd go back 2 days before you had symptoms and talk about who you had contact with, who may have been in the same room with you. Passing someone in the hallway is not a direct contact. That doesn't count. But anyone you've spent more time in. So then I'm going to call all those people and we're going to talk, and I'm going to have, they need to stay home. So say they saw you on that Thursday. So you didn't have symptoms at all, but they had direct contact. You went out for lunch or you sat in the break room next to someone. I would talk to that person. They need to stay home for 2 weeks from that Thursday. So 2 full weeks, because they could get symptoms anytime in there. Just the person that you had contact with needs to stay home, not the family members that may live in the same household as those people. Any questions?
Yeah, can you reiterate that part about family members?
Yes.
If you're being tested or waiting to be tested, then
yes.
What is your family members doing? Then what do your family members do if you are positive?
Okay, so we're going to skip back to the person that's sick and on isolation. Their entire household is now on quarantine. So if you came in and you have symptoms and you've tested, say you're waiting for your test to come back from the mail, your family, your whole family should stay home for those 2 to 3 days until you get the results. That way, just in case you actually have it and your family gets sick before that comes back, then they need to stay home too. Does that make sense? And at least until you get your results. If your results come back negative, y'all can go anywhere you want. But if your test results come back positive, then that whole household needs to stay home. In a perfect world, the person that's sick would use a different bathroom and stay in one area of the house and not get within 6 feet of anyone else in the house for that entire time that they're sick. If you can do that, say you have 2 bathrooms and you can live in the basement and just use one bathroom and everyone else can stay away from you, then the rest of your family still needs to quarantine for that 2 weeks. But they don't have to stay home longer than that. But if you only have one bathroom and you can't separate because you have a lot of people in your house, and I'm going to talk you through that. So I'm going to help you make that decision and let you know if you can do that or not safely. But if you only have one bathroom and say you have 6 people in a 3-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom house and you're not able to separate out, then the household members need to stay. Their 14-day quarantine starts the day that you're not contagious anymore. So say you're not contagious on the 10th of July. Your 14 days starts on the 10th of July, which I know is a long time. So you have to stay home that entire time that your family member's sick, but then you have to stay home 2 weeks past when the person that was sick gets to leave the house. That's really confusing for people. They have a hard time with that one. But honestly, the sick person does get to leave the house sooner than everyone else. What else? Oh, I do want, because I know it's been a big topic and I've seen a lot of questions on it on Facebook, and at almost every meeting I'm at, it's a question that everyone has. If you are quarantined or isolated, your household can't leave the house. Especially if you're isolated and the rest of your family's quarantined. Isolated means you're sick, you have to stay home. Quarantine means you might get sick, you have to stay home. So if your entire household is either isolated or quarantined and you need to get groceries, then I tell you, when I call you, I tell you that to please call me if you need anything. So we then can coordinate with you to pick up stuff that you might need from the store. How we've done that in the past is Zups does the drive up pickup. So you can call and order the food from Zups that you want and then pay for it over the phone if you have a debit card, or get a total from them and then give us cash. So how that works is we would literally come to your house. You would stick it outside on your door. We would clean it all off and then go in and pay for it. Of course, we would prefer the debit card. It just makes it a little bit easier. But I know a lot of people don't have that. Or if you have a check, you can write a check to Zups for that amount, and then we can bring it in and pay for it. We can coordinate a lot of things. We do ask that you would ask if you have a family member or a friend that lives not in your same household, if they can coordinate that with you, that would be good. But we will help you coordinate that. So we can bring medication, say the doctor ordered Tylenol or ibuprofen or a thermometer, we drop that at your door.
Okay, I got a couple questions
Okay.
here. We'll get back to Darren's, but for right now, we have a question on what you're kind of talking about now.
Okay.
So how does that work for people who are not on the reservation?
If you live off the reservation, it kind of depends on where you live and if you're a band member or not. So if I'm going to assume that if you're a band member and you live within 30 to 45 minutes of the reservation, I'm going to try to get your case from Minnesota Department of Health. And I'm going to try to do the case investigation and the contact tracing with you. If we've done the case investigation and the contact tracing, then you would call me too, and we would still coordinate those services. If you're not native, I cannot take your case. So then that goes through the Minnesota Department of Health. If you live past the 30 to 45 minutes, so when I say 30 to 45 minutes, I mean like Ely, Virginia, Hibbing, Towertown, Cook, or probably as far as maybe Little Fork. So if you live in that area, then I'm going to try to take that case and try to coordinate those services with you.
Yeah, another question is, how often do you check up on those who can't leave because of quarantine?
So I can check daily. It kind of depends on the person. The couple that I've had are like, no, I'm good. I don't need anything. And I'm going to ask you that when we do the contact tracing and the case investigation. How often do you want me to check on you? I also give you my phone number, my cell phone number, which I have all the time. And you can call that if you need anything. But it's case by case. A few of them I've done have been real young. And then some are a little bit older. The older ones probably need more services than the younger ones.
Let's see other. Okay. We do have a question further back.
Okay.
About whether or not the coronavirus is mutating, like the common flu. Like they say, some of the vaccines are 100% accurate or effective. You know, like the smallpox vaccine, where the coronavirus. Or is it mutating to the point where?
I've seen some things say that it is mutating, and I've seen some things say that it isn't. It is a virus. They do mutate. I wouldn't doubt that they aren't mutating. This is more of a Shannon Viter, Dr. Viter question. But even if they develop a vaccine and it's not 100% match, it's going to offer some protection, if that makes sense. Because I have been reading stuff just recently that it seems like it's gotten milder. I don't know if that's true or not, or if we're just picking up a lot more cases because we're testing more.
Kind of a question here. So what happens then? I mean, why don't you take band member cases that live off the reservation? Like say, Duluth or the cities.
Yep. So because I can't provide services there, to be really honest, I don't know the community. I don't have the connections. I don't have the staff to deliver stuff there, if that makes sense. There's literally two nurses right now that are doing it, and we have 3 CHRs. So it's just a staffing, like we just can't provide the services that need to be provided.
So they're looking at with that virus kind of mutating and everything. Is it going to be? Do you think it's going to be here forever, kind of like the flu or whatever?
I would think so. So back, and I'm going to use the H1N1, the swine flu, the bird flu, whatever we called it in 2009. That viral strain is still active. I think it was in our flu vaccine within the last couple of years. So it's still there. I don't think it's just going to disappear. And neither did the big shot epidemiologists in Minnesota. That's just not my opinion.
Okay. No new questions yet. That's pretty good.
I don't even know where I was.
We were working on the contact tracing.
Oh, the contact tracing. So I'm going to call, like I said, I'm going to call all of your contacts. I'm going to let them know I'm going to let them know that they came in contact with someone on this date. If you tell me I can't tell them your name, then I can't tell them your name. So I would contact them and say, hey, someone you had contact with on this date has come down with COVID. I'm going to ask you to quarantine for 2 weeks from that date, the last date of the contact. So like I said, if you contact on the 10th, then you would be quarantined through the 24th. Remember, that applies to just you, not your entire household. The only way the rest of your household would get quarantined is if you got sick. So if you get sick, then you'd move from quarantine to isolated because you're sick. And then the rest of your household would then become quarantined because they've been exposed to you. So, and the people that are, if you're quarantined and say you live by yourself, you're quarantined and you don't have anyone, no family and no friends that can help you get things like meds delivered, food dropped off, that kind of stuff, then we provide you those services also. And those people I give my cell number to too.
We have another question from our Facebook Live. This question is from Miranda. It says, is quarantine for contacts mandatory?
If you're referring to the resolution, I can't comment on the resolution. It's not mine. I'm here. I'm only talking about the medical aspects. The resolution is not mine. I'm going to defer you back to the tribal council on that one. Sorry. It is highly recommended. What else do you want to know?
Okay, another one is quarantine only for those in contact who have had contact with COVID?
Yes. So if you're quarantined, you are not sick yet. You've just had direct contact with someone that was.
Got those. Okay, let's see. Trying to catch up to the to the chats here. Okay, answered that one. They could just quiet. We got crickets going.
I know.
We're still reading and catching up. So if you guys have any more questions, go ahead and ask.
Okay, I will comment on HIPAA. And if you're diagnosed and and I do the case investigation on you, and I call you. If you live on the reservation, I'm going to release. Oh, sorry, my phone's ringing. If you live on reservation, we can only release your information to EMS. So how that works in the MDH system is when I'm doing the case investigation with you, I will ask you if I can release your information to 911 dispatch. So that's me clicking a box. So if you say yes, I'm going to click the box. If there's a 911 call to your house, then EMS and the police department will get that information. I can't share your information with anyone. If you choose to post that on Facebook, then that's your public knowledge to share, but I can't release it to anyone. I will make one comment. If I have you on isolation and I know because I've called your house and you're not there and you've left, that is the only time I can release your information to the tribal council. That's the only time that I can do it, is if you're not following the isolation and quarantine order. So if you're not following that, then I would report that. Otherwise, I cannot release. The only thing I can release to the public is what you guys heard in my announcement earlier this week. No, last week about the case. So I can say what district, and I can say an age range. So if it's me that has it, I would say, well, I'm not a very good example. I would say that there's one person on the Nett Lake side of the reservation, age range 40 to 49. And that's all I can say. That's all I can say in the Turk meetings. That's all I can say to anyone else.
So I got questions I've seen out before. So isn't that like a public health thing? Like, why can't people know that there's someone there? Can't we put everyone know that that's where that house is?
Yes,
or
I know.
Should I put signs out and let it, people should know who's infected.
I know, but legally I cannot release that. If the family of the person that has it chooses to put a sign out, they can put a sign out saying, we're on quarantine, please don't come and visit. If you choose to do that, you could do that. I cannot label you. The only reason why I can release the information to the tribal council is because if it is a public health risk, that's the only way. If you're at home, you're minding your business, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're staying home, you're following the quarantine or the isolation recommendations, then you're fine. I don't tell anyone. The only way I would release it is if it's a public health risk, if that makes sense.
So how many contact tracing people do we have at Boys Fort?
That can do the contact tracing? Yeah. Okay, so me and Teri Defoe are the ones who are trained right now. So how we're splitting it up is I've been doing the ones, well, we haven't had any Nett Lake, but I've been doing, I'll do the Nett Lake ones, and then Teri Defoe will do the Vermilion ones. We can interchange, so if one of us takes the day off, if Teri Defoe is off, I would do the Vermilion if she's off. And we can switch back and forth. And the off-reservation ones, we're going to kind of just trade, I think, depending on I think it's going to depend on which side of the reservation they have more contact with. So if it's someone that lives in Virginia that has contacts with someone in Nett Lake, I'm more likely to take that case. But if it's someone that has more contacts in Vermilion, then Teri Defoe is going to take that case. We do have the ability to add nursing staff. So if our cases ramp up, it's only about a 4 to 5 hour training to be able to do the case investigation and the contact tracing. We have nursing staff lined up ready that can take that training and then be able to fill those positions.
Another question from our YouTube is like, would you recommend for employees to work from home with the current activity in the area?
If you're high risk, if your doctor has said you are high risk, if you have a family member in your household that is high risk, if you're at work following the face mask and the 6 feet recommendation, if you're not high risk, you're fine. You need to be following them. So that's not sitting in the break room having lunch with 4 of your closest friends for half an hour. That's not following them. So 6 feet, mask on all the time, because remember, your mask is not, it's not a reason why you can't keep the 6 feet. Does that make sense? So if you have the mask on, that doesn't mean you can sit real close. My recommendation really is at lunch, you need to sit like at least 6 feet from people, minimum, because you can't wear your mask when you're eating. So I spend a lot of time in my office with the door shut. I do a lot of my calls, my meetings via Zoom. I rarely come down. This is probably the most contact I've had all day.
Nothing new, no new questions. You have one?
No.
Oh, that was quick. It's only 6 o'clock.
I know, that's what I was wondering. What else do you want to talk about?
Hold on.
Oh,
Got one there.
okay, I got a question. Do you worry about conflicts when it comes to the cases, like if you know that person?
So if I'm uncomfortable, I probably would not do a case investigation on my husband. I wouldn't. That's just not appropriate. That's why we have 2 people trained. So if there's a conflict and we're not comfortable, or if you're the person getting case investigated and you're not comfortable with me asking the questions, you can ask to have Teri Defoe do it. Or if you have Teri Defoe and that's your cousin or your auntie or whatever, you can ask too to have me do it. Also, if you live off reservation and you're not comfortable with us doing it, Boys Fort doing it, you can request Minnesota Department of Health do it too.
For back question on high risk individuals, does high blood pressure automatically put you in there at the high risk level?
I'm going to defer you to your provider. So, yep, that's a provider question. They need to make that determination.
Okay. We have a question. Just wondering, why are there so many around the area claiming they're in quarantine?
So I will remind you that, and I don't know who you're talking about. So if someone in your household was isolated, remember your 2 weeks start when that person gets off isolation. So if you have someone in the household that has it and you only have 1 bathroom, you could be at home for 24 days. So I don't know if that helps. I can't identify who is and who isn't.
Got a question. So if you're considered high risk, you should not be working.
Again, I'm going to refer you to your provider because the provider needs to make that determination, not me. I don't know a health history. I can't. So you talk to your provider and they will help you determine if you're high risk or not.
So a lot of times the provider then would most likely write up any kind of notes or letters that we would need to provide to your employer regarding that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Your own provider would write that note. That would not come from a nurse from me.
Nothing new yet?
Everyone's feverishly typing.
I know. Any other questions? We're kind of slowing down here.
So I will give out my cell phone number. So my cell phone number is 218-750-2227. I do take calls. I will text. If you don't want to call me, if you just have a question, you can text me. I'll do my best to answer or send you to who can answer the question.
Okay. There's a question on Facebook.
Okay.
It says they're just wondering, they seem to wonder why not everyone is on the same page of you and Teri on explaining things. And thank you for explaining things.
Oh, me and Teri Defoe?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think everyone kind of explains things differently. If you're not understanding the answer from one of us, please feel free to call the other one, because sometimes you just click better with someone, I think.
Yeah.
And like you understand how they explain it better. So it's fine to call me or Teri. The other Teri.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if Teri Defoe is doing your case investigation, if you can't understand what she's saying and she's not quite, or the same with me, if you don't understand what I'm saying, you can call the other one and we should be telling you the same information. Maybe one of us just explains it different.
Okay. I have a question. So what kind of safety measures can I do going out shopping and going to restaurants?
So those are two very different risk activities. Shopping, most people, I see so many comments on Facebook, they're like, oh my God, did you see all the people in Walmart? But you're only next to the same person in Walmart for less than 10 seconds, unless you're standing in line and they're really slow. But then you should still wear your mask. We're going to talk about the Walmart one first. Wear your mask and then keep your distance. So remember, direct contact is more than 15 minutes, closer than 6 feet. Like you shouldn't be standing next to anyone that long at Walmart, hopefully. So, and then use your hand sanitizer often. And don't touch your face. Don't rearrange your mask. Don't do this. I love this one. Please don't do this because it does nothing. Don't do this because your nose is still out. That isn't effective either. You got to wear it up, all the way up, and then don't touch it. So if you do what I just did, you should use hand sanitizer before you're touching other things. So that's Walmart. Oh, now I messed it up. Hold on. Okay, so that's Walmart. If you're at a restaurant, that's really different because you're sitting there, depending where you're eating, 15 minutes to 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, right? So if you're out at, like a sit down place, South Switch, if you're out and you're sitting there and you're visiting, you're talking to your friends, you're sitting with the same people for a long period of time. Your risk is much, much higher. If I was a high risk person, I would feel okay shopping. I would not feel okay at a restaurant. I just wouldn't. Get your food to go, take it out, do the curbside pickup still. If you're healthier, you still need to do that 6 feet. I've been at some restaurants and I walked in and I'm like, how is this even social distancing? Like the bar was full and then all the tables were full and there was people standing by the tables. I was like, good Lord. So really be aware of where you're at in there. Make sure if you take a seat, if there's an outside seating option, take it, because you're way safer outside than you are sitting in the same room, breathing the same air with the same people for half an hour. But you can wear your mask except when you're eating. That's safer. Wash your hands really well, especially before you eat and after you eat. Those are safer ways to do it, but eating out is really a higher risk activity.
So what should I do if I get to the store and I forgot my mask?
If you're not high risk, you're probably fine. Really watch your 6 feet. Really pay attention. Don't stand very close when you're checking out. Use your hand sanitizer if you have it. If you don't have it, wash your hands as much as possible. Don't touch your face.
Thank you. Oh, nothing else?
Nothing here.
No, we don't have any more questions, but I just wanted to reiterate that Teri will be reviewing the comments. And then if she missed something or has anything additional to add, she will make a comment and provide information and resources for you. So if we did miss you, we apologize. This is our first time doing the live with two systems. Nothing really. Can't think of anything else.
Okay. If you guys have any questions at all, call my cell phone, 218-750-2227, or you can email, what's the COVID email?
COVID-19.
So COVID-19, COVID, 19 at boysport-nsn.gov. That gets to me. It also goes to, I think, a medical provider, dental maybe. I don't remember. But if email it and I check, that one comes right to my own email. So I get them. Call me, email me, call me at work. If you have any questions at all, I'll do my best to answer them. I think my biggest takeaway is if you have any symptoms at all, shortness of breath, fever, new fever, loss of taste or smell, that's one I've seen in a lot of people. They have no other symptom but lost their taste or their sense of smell. Headache, diarrhea, anything like that, call into the clinic, let them know what's going on. They will screen you, and then you can come in, and if you fit the criteria, then you can come in and get tested. Please call before you come. Please don't just walk in, because we want to keep you outside to reduce the amount of people that could possibly be infected. And then I think some prevention things, wear your mask all the time, especially at work, because if you're going to get it from someone, you're going to get it from someone you're really comfortable with, someone that you're going to spend time eating lunch with, your best friend, your coworker that you have known for years. That's who you're going to get it from, because you're really, really comfortable. You're going to put your guard down with those people. It's real important to keep the guard up, keep your distance. If you're going to visit someone outside, go for a walk at lunch instead of eating in the break room. If you're going to go out with your friends after work, do it outside. Go for a walk, that kind of stuff.
Got a question.
Okay.
Do we need to wash our groceries before we bring them in the house, or what do we need to do on that end?
I've never been a grocery washer. So if you're I just have never, you're much higher risk of getting it in the air than from touching things. Some common touch point things like light switches, faucets, door handles, that kind of stuff, wash your hands. After, if you're concerned about your groceries, then wash your hands after you put them away. That would be my best thing. Okay. I do know a lot of people that have kept them outside or stored them in the garage for a day before they bring them in. If that makes you feel safer, go ahead. It doesn't hurt.
Okay, we have a question about what's going on at Fortune Bay. Is it them taking temperatures just good enough, or?
That's the screening options we have. They've also increased their cleaning schedule. They also have all their staff and all the clients that come in, all the visitors that come in wearing masks. They're mandatory. If you've been there, they have, when they wipe off the machines and they put a little card in their card reader that sticks out and it says that machine has been sanitized. If you have specific questions, they have a plan that's on their website. So if you go to fortunebay.com, their plan is on there. I think Jenna said it's like 50 or 60 pages long. So they have a whole list of things.
Has the virus peaked here in Minnesota yet, or is that coming?
I think it's coming. I think we did see, if you're following it, we did see a rise, right? When we had all the restrictions, and then it seemed like it was coming down. So up until, I think this week, beginning of this weekend, we start seeing it come up just a little bit more, and we're gonna see that because we've cut back on a lot of the restrictions that we have, at least off reservation on the state side. They've cut back, they've opened a lot of things up. We're gonna see a rise. The rise that I've been seeing is in the 20 to 39-year-olds. So those two age groups, 20 to 29 and then 30 to 39. We're seeing that bump up because I think those are more the people that are out in the community.
Okay. Is there such thing as a false positive?
I think there could be. The risk, I think, is pretty minimal, especially in a send-out test, especially if you have symptoms. If you have someone that had symptoms, that test is accurate. Yeah.
What's the test like? I mean, what do they do?
Okay, so the rapid one that we have is either just a quick nasal swab or the back of the throat, like when you have your strep test. So it's like that, where they're literally scratching back there. So that's the one that we call it the Abbott machine. That's the machine we have here. And that's just a quick swab, not a big deal. The one that's a send out to the Mayo is the one that they call the nasopharyngeal. And you literally tip your head back and they stick that clear back so it touches the back of the back. So that one's a little uncomfortable. That one, they need to do that specific test to run that specific lab. So that one is a little bit more, we call it invasive. So this screening one is a little better. I haven't heard too many comments on it. I haven't had it done, but yeah, it is just a nasal. There is no blood test.
Okay, no blood test.
No.
Why can't they find that in the blood?
Because it lives in your nasal. It's a respiratory illness, so it lives in your nasal passages and down in your lungs. Just like the flu. The flu, I don't think there's a blood test for the flu either.
You want to give your cell phone number out again?
Okay, my cell phone number is 218-750-2227. That's 218-750-2227. Anything else?
That's the test.
Oh.
A comment was made, so it touches your brain.
Close. I think I'm still going to mention that Boys Fort is still under a stay-at-home recommendation. We're not enforcing that. We don't have the red zone anymore. We haven't for quite some time. We're asking people to follow that with their comfort level. So like you said, if you're high risk, if if you fall under that high risk category, if you've talked to your provider says you're high risk, or you're an elder, the older you are, the higher risk you are. Just your age is high risk. We're asking those people that are high risk to stay home more. We're asking people to wear masks when they go out in public, just to protect themselves. So those recommendations are out for people to protect themselves.
We do have a question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this or not, but since the virus hasn't peaked yet around here, why did the council bring back the employees to work and get rid of the red zone?
So, we can always go backwards. So we opened it up because we weren't having any cases. So we opened it up because the rest of the state is opening. And a lot of the band members wanted us to open it back up. So we opened it up. It's been open. The red zone's been gone for a long time. But like 2 months? 2 months, month and a half, 2 months? We haven't had a case yet. So we brought people back to work because the cases were dropping. We're going to see what happens, honestly. If we have more cases, we can still close it back down. We can still bring the restrictions in more. So that's kind of why we opened it up, because we can't stay at home forever. Like, we can't. So that's why we're still having, if you're high risk, if your provider has said you're high risk, then we're still giving those people the option to stay at home or work from home. But we open it up kind of just because we're not having very many cases.
But that's why we're emphasizing.
Yes, that's why we're asking. We put out, Simona worked really hard and did a whole employee handbook for COVID, like an employee plan. And in that plan, we wear our masks all the time. Unless you're in your office with your door shut, you should have your mask on. So you should consistently see employees wearing them all the time. We're social distancing. We're trying to keep it as much as possible. Personally, I eat my lunch in my room because I don't want to sit in the break room with 5 other people. So I'm eating in my room. There's stuff you can do personally to keep yourself safer. I use hand sanitizer. I wear my mask all the time. I do get out and I try to go for a walk during the day. If I have a meeting, I use Zoom. So there's safe ways to be at work. I've been at work the whole time, honestly. I mean, there's been a few days that I've worked from home, but the majority of the days I've been here. Nothing else?
Nothing else, nothing.
All
right, we'll just wrap it up here shortly here. Do you have any other questions real quick? It's been kind of a long day for all of us. But then I do want to mention too, remind you that you can watch the replays on our Facebook page and our YouTube, that these videos will be online for you to review later or to share, or if you didn't get a chance to watch this live, that'll be there for you to review later. Again, Teri is going to be reviewing the comments as well and answering any questions she may have missed.
And if you're not comfortable asking them on the comment thread, like I said, text me, email me, call me at work. My office is up at the clinic. So if you want to call the clinic and ask for me.
Okay. You got a lot of thank yous and McLunches from both sides.
You're welcome.
Doing good job.
Good.
We even got a heart.
I know sometimes I know all the information in my head. And so it's hard to get it out in an understandable manner. So I hope that I did that. And like I said, Ask questions. If you don't know, ask.
I'll just do a quick question. Do you feel like these lives were actually helpful at all, or should we have more of these? If you can leave a comment below, let us know if they're beneficial, or if you'd like to see more, or if there's any other topics that you would like us to cover in the future.
Oh yeah, because I could have Dr. Viter come in too. She's done one with me before. So if that is a request, then we could do that. She would be better at the percentages and how accurate and the strain question. That's that's a Dr. Viter. She knows all that.
Okay. So again, I mean, if you have any comments on that, topics, or anything you want, if we want to do more of these, should we do them more often? Not at all. Maybe twice a week, once a month. Let us know. And if you want, we can have different people here, providers, nurses. Just let us know in the comments, and we will do our best to accommodate all those. So, so it's pretty overwhelming, and we appreciate you.
It is overwhelming, and it's scary. If you don't really know, it really is scary. And so, like I said, the best that you could do, wash your hands, keep your distance, wear your face mask, especially if you're high risk.
Yay. Okay, so we're just going to wrap it up here. It is now approximately 6:30. Oh, sorry, I got sidetracked by comments. So again, these will be up on our social media pages for you to review. And again, if you have any questions, you're not comfortable, go ahead and give Teri a call. Her number has been all over the place in the chats, and on our website is boysfort.com. It's on there. There's a whole section for COVID information and resources.
I will tell you the best resources for information: CDC and the Minnesota Department of Health. Those are the best. They have great information. They have great information for community members too. They have really good information on those pages. And Louise has been sharing a lot of that on the Boys Fort, on our website, on our Facebook. Yeah, a lot of good info.
I know that the CDC has a section just for tribal nations.
Yep.
So if you poke around there long enough, you might find it. I can't tell you exactly where it is, but there's a section for information for tribal nations. And we steal a bunch of their info all the time. So again, I just want to say thank you very much for coming. I want to thank Teri for spending time with us. And Eddie, he's behind the scene with us. So
he's the silent helper.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we will see you next time. Don't forget to share and comment.